Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees.
How many of you are ready and interested to hear more practical tips about how to chant better? How to spontaneously or naturally come to Krishna for everything? I hope you all had a great day and also having a great evening. So, like we always do, we will start with prayers and then we will do some HolyName in between the talk we will do. And today's talk is very special. We are going to talk about 6 practical tips which will bring a tremendous difference in the way we serve Krishna, in the way we do bhakti, and in the way we take the holy names. And we will also talk about 6 ways or 6 things we should be careful of or we should avoid so that our spiritual life is not disturbed. So without further wait, let's offer the prayers. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Sapadantikam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshutarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So all the music lovers, now is the time. We are all going to sing together Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and then we are going to discuss the 6 wonderful tips which will bring significant difference in our devotional life. Let's start singing, chanting together.
Hare Krishna.
So, which one?
Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare.
All right. So we completed the Maha Mantra, and now I want to mention that the 6 tips I'm going to cover today, they are mentioned in a book called Updeshamrit or Nectar of Instruction. So Srila Prabhupada ne kaha ki in all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control mind and senses. Unless one controls his mind and senses, one cannot make any advancement in spiritual life. Everyone with this material world is engrossed in so many different activities, right? And we have been studying about modes of ignorance, passion, and goodness. So one must promote himself from the platform of ignorance and passion to the mode of goodness or sattva guna. And so by following the instructions of Srila Rupa Goswami, and then by everything concerning how to make further spiritual progress will be revealed. So a little bit information on who is Srila Rupa Goswami. He was the leader of all the Goswamis, and to guide our activities, he gave us the book Updeshamrit or the Nectar of Instruction to follow. Now yesterday we did, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left behind, Sri Shikshashtakam. I spoke briefly about the 8 instructions, Ashtaks, 8 instructions. And Rupa Goswami gave us the nectar of instruction so that we may become pure devotees of Krishna. So today we'll talk about the 6 principles favorable to discharge of devotional service, which help us in spiritual advancement. And once we are done talking about it, we will also talk about 6 things to avoid. And then if you want, you can make notes, you can ask questions. We will ask some questions in between, so be attentive because this is your chance to show us that you have been listening. Okay, we are going to read aloud this verse, the verse which lists the 6 instructions, and then we are going to explain and talk about it. For those of you who would like to see this book, please go to vedabase.io. Click on Prabhupada's books, and there you will find this book, Nectar of Instruction. Okay? We are on verse number 2. Please read with us. Atyahara prayashascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha lolyam cha sadbir bhaktir vinashyati. So, this is the verse actually about the 6 items which we have to be careful about, which spoils our devotional service. Okay? And so I'm going to quickly list those points and Prabhuji can explain further about these 6 points. So once devotional service is spoiled when one becomes too entangled with the following. Number 1, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. Atyahar. Okay? Number 2, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are difficult to obtain. Number 3, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. It is also called prajalp, gossiping. 4th, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement or rejecting the rules and regulations. So basically not following the rules and regulations properly. And number 5th, associating with worldly minded people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. Now this is the importance of satsang. We'll talk about that. And 6th one, being greedy for mundane achievements. This is again the worldly endeavors, things which have nothing to do with making advancement spiritually. So these are the 6 things which can spoil our devotional service. Prabhuji, did you want to explain anything about this?
So niyamagraha,
Atyahara Prayasya Niyamagraha. The third one is very important. When you do the, Sandhi Vichhed, as we say, break that word, it's a compound word, break into two, you can make it either Niyam Agraha or Niyam Agraha. Niyam Agraha. Agraha means rejecting, not doing it. So not doing the rituals. Niyam, right? Niyam is basically translated as rituals. And to reject the rituals which are necessary is also a bad thing. While Agraha means being too attached. So performing rituals just the sake of performing rituals to get name, fame and glories. That's what it's identifying. Rather, rituals are important, but we have to know the essence behind those rituals. We have to be attentive when performing those rituals with the right mindset to satisfy Lord Shri Krishna. Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam. He is the beneficiary of all sacrifices. So all activities that we are doing are with that focus. So we are adding the spirit to the ritual and it becomes spiritual.
And Prabhuji was just explaining about the fourth point, which is practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of advancement. Did you want to add anything about any other points?
Janasanghasya. That's also very important. So in the other one, things we should do, it helps us understand whose association we should take. Yet at the same time, we have to go to work and we have to associate with people who are non-devotees, right? But we should keep that association very limited and we should not take their association.
And we are going to discuss in detail about what our association should be like, with the highly saintly people, pure souls, we serve them. With the peers, we are friendly to them. With innocent people, we are compassionate to them. So there are so many tips and instructions given by our acharyas. So one thing to be careful about is, we become whatever is our association. So that is why this point is here. If we are looking to improve our devotional service or chant japa, and if we are having a lot of anarthas in our heart, or impediments around us, environment is not favorable, we need to then introspect and we need to think about it. What's wrong in my environment? What am I doing? And that's why these 6 points are so important. Any other point you wanted to add further?
No, this is good.
Okay. Yes. So now these were the 6 tips. And before we start on the main 6 techniques or tips which help us make spiritual advancement favorably, please join us for some HolyName. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rāma.
Okay, so now we are going to read this 3rd verse from Nectar of Instructions by Rupa Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami. And this verse will give us some really good insight how we can make spiritual progress. Did you want to add something? Okay. So the verse goes like this. Utsaha nishchayat dharyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte sadbir bhakti prasidhati. So we are going to now see what is the meaning of this verse. There are 6 principles favorable to execution of pure devotional service. Number 1, being enthusiastic. Make a note of these points. I'm going to ask this. Number 2, endeavoring with confidence. Number 3, being patient. Number 4, acting according to regulative principles, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing, chanting and remembering Krishna. 5th, abandoning the association of non-devotees, and sixth, following in the footsteps of previous acharyas. These are the 6 principles. Undoubtedly, they assure the complete progress in pure devotional service. Such a fine list to think and meditate on, isn't it? Now, being enthusiastic, how do you develop? Many people ask me sometimes, how do you develop that enthusiasm? Because over a period of time, you know, when you have been doing something, it seems like you start losing that zeal or enthusiasm. So one of the great ways to do that is to associate with like-minded people, right? Number 2, read about the name, fame, glories, pastimes of the Lord from Prabhupada's books, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. There are such sweet and beautiful leelas. Listen to the Vaishnava songs, kirtans, bhajans. For all the people who love music, you feel so enthusiastic, and there is a wonderful shift in the consciousness once you do Shravanam of the holy names. Try chanting the holy names with attentiveness, without making any offenses, with absorption. You will feel that in your heart, that spark of enthusiasm. So there are several ways. Now let me ask you one thing. The points I have listed about how to feel enthusiastic, other than that, do you have any other ways you cultivate your enthusiasm in performing bhakti? Please comment on it. I would like to read about it. Would you like to add something?
No, this is good.
Okay. The second point is endeavoring with confidence. How do you get that confidence? Usually, you know, in our day-to-day life, we feel confident about things we know about, right? And also where we feel we belong. So, the more time we spend in services around Krishna, serving the devotees, the more confident we get. But again, it all points back to do it with the like-minded people, right? Do it with the people who are trying to serve Krishna. You will feel enthusiastic and the confidence. Being patient. We have to develop patience and tolerance in all activities we do, because it's over a period of time we develop all divine qualities. You know, Bhagavad Gita chapter 16 lists all the divine and the demonic characteristics. So being tolerant or patient is one of the qualities in the mode of goodness. So if we realize already from morning to evening, we shift between different modes like tamogun, rajagun, sattvagun, you know. So we have to identify with different type of the day what mode we are in, and gradually we should learn to be patient. Acting according to regulative principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Prahlad Maharaj listed 9 processes of devotional service, and the 3 are being talked about here. So once we hear, chant, it helps us to remember Krishna. Abandoning the association of non-devotees, we were talking earlier about it, right?
Yes.
It's very important, the kind of sangati we have. Prabhuji, do you want to share that story, how a moment's association with the devotee of the Lord, or you have another wonderful story maybe that can help?
Yeah. So let me quickly cover the one you referred to. So Amrish Maharaj was a great devotee of the Lord, and he would constantly be engaged in devotional service.
Louder.
Yet, his brother, he was not a devotee at all, rather he was a sense gratifier. He was just seeking to enjoy, eat, sleep and be merry, just enjoy the sense objects. So Amrish Maharaj asked Devashi Narad, is there something that you can do to help my brother become a devotee? Can you give him your association? Right? So Devashi Narad says, okay, I will try. So he goes to Amrish Maharaj's brother's house, the palace, and there, seeing Devashi Narad, chanting, and Devashi Narad, what is he chanting? Please write in the comment. So as he's chanting the Lord's name, yes.
So there is one more important thing I want to remind everyone. Prabhuji is telling the story of a king called Amrish Maharaj, who is considered an ideal example, who performed all 9 processes of devotional service in his day-to-day life. Okay? We must know that he was so exalted and elevated soul. So now he is telling the story, how, I should not give away the story, but he is telling the happenings with his brother, King Amrish's brother.
So Devashi Narad went to Amrish Maharaj's brother's house, the palace. And as soon as Amrish Maharaj's brother, he saw Devashi Narad chanting, holy name, he became angry and said, go away, because he was enjoying, he was eating merrily and, enjoying the dance and all kind of sense gratification. So Devashi Narad did not go away, so he picked up his club and he ran after Devashi Narad. So now Devashi Narad is seeing that this king is coming after, running towards me with a club in his hand, he's about to hit me. Devashi Narad ran away. And so he's chasing Devashi Narad, and finally he got tired. And so the brother got tired and he was, trying to catch up his breath. At that time, Devashi Narad said, yes, I understand that you don't want my company. But if you're taken to in front of Yamraj, you should ask, what is the benefit of momentary association with a devotee? Right? So, as the time passes, this king dies and he's taken by Yamlok, by the Yamdutas to Yamlok. And there, Chitragut, right, the secretary of Yamraj, he looks at the account, he's like, oh, very bad account, If he goes to hell, he is never going to come out, for eternity he will be there. However, he has little benefit, he had momentary association, so he says, yes, do you have a question? And so the brother suddenly remembers Devashi Narad's this instruction that he should ask. So he asks Yamraj Maharaj, saying that, what is the benefit one gets by momentary association of a devotee? So Yamraj is thinking, Chitragut doesn't have an answer. So they decide to go to where? To Indradev, and then to
After
Lord
Yamraj, they go to
Shiva.
Indradev, and then Lord Shiva.
And then to Lord Brahma, and nobody has an answer. So finally, Lord Brahma, he takes everyone at Shvet Sagar, right? Where Shivdaksha Vishnu is there, Shiv Sagar. And there, he's asking this question, and Lord Vishnu, says, okay, who is asking the question? So the king is sent forth. So he goes to Lord Vishnu and asks this question, and Lord Vishnu is smiling. And everyone is puzzled, why is he smiling? He's saying that this is the benefit of momentary association with a devotee. That this king, even though he performed all kinds of sinful activities, but because of momentary association, he's able to get into Vaikuntha. And even I cannot ask him to leave against his wishes.
So look at where he ended up being. So this is the power of the association of saintly people or the devotees. The devotees who constantly chant or meditate on the Lord or the names of the Supreme Lord. So this is the power and potency.
Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Kaya, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Haya. So, by the association of Sadhu Sanghas, association of the pure devotees of the Lord, by momentary association, one can attain perfection. That is the moral of this story.
So we should always remember this. Just like we want to always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. That is the key formula to always feel the protection of the Lord. So since all devotees of the Lord are under the protection of the Lord, they should not deviate from the path of bhakti and get distracted in all different ways, indirect ways, indirect worship processes. And so that is why we listed in the beginning the 6 things which are not favorable in our spiritual life, and 6 things or 6 principles which will help us tremendously, like magic. See, we are trying to chant the holy names. We should do everything possible a day before or days before or throughout our life, which help us in creating the right mood, in being in the right mood, so that we are not distracted with our mind and senses, which act like impediments in the path of bhakti. So in this way, we can all make advancement in spiritual life without hindrance. So now we have listed these points and we have done. I want to just quickly mention my Guru Maharaj is always reminding and inspiring us all to chant attentively, to serve the Vaishnavas, to be compassionate to all the souls. And he says, when our mind runs towards wrong thoughts, we must drag it back and try to remember Lord's name, pastimes, qualities, forms, and instructions. How about some HolyName at this point?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare.
So, dear friends, at this point, I want to remind you all very quickly, it is very important whether we may not feel interested, but let's make attempt to chant Lord's name, to sing His glories, and then only we can pray for developing attraction, absorption, attachment. What are the
Attention
attention
and affection.
And then we can pray to the Lord, chant the holy name with love and devotion. Steadiness is another big point, and we will do a separate talk on how to become really steady in performing bhakti, taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. But all these little steps we are taking, all the little points we are discussing, these help in gradual progress spiritually. So don't forget it, okay? At this point, I would like to request you all to get your bead bags, or if you don't have beads, just chant with us, listen to us. That's also bhakti. We will listen to Srila Prabhupada and chant a mala of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It has 108 beads. So we'll chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra 108 times. And while we do that, at some point, please write in the comment one thing you're taking back from this talk today. I would really like to read about that. Let's chant together. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Should I cover the story on the attentiveness?
Yeah. So Prabhuji
Hare
has a
Krishna.
nice story about attentiveness. Let's listen to that.
So once this spiritual master, he tells his disciple that I'm going to tell you the secret to perfection. Can you imagine? It's like we all our life are waiting to understand what's the secret to perfection.
Right.
So the disciple comes in front of his spiritual master. He says, please give it to me. So his spiritual master says, repeat after me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The disciple repeats it and he takes it to his heart that he has to chant. The spiritual master is saying, chant it constantly, don't ever stop. Now, as he is realizing he has to chant it very like a japa, right? Very quite. He goes out, his spiritual master says, why don't you go and get my clothes from the, dhobi. Dhobi is the washerman. So he says, okay. So as he goes out, he takes a rickshaw. And the rickshaw guy, as he's riding the rickshaw, he's driving the rickshaw, is constantly chanting what? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Now the disciple is surprised, but he doesn't say anything. And as he goes to the dhobi's place, dhobi is washing the clothes. And what is he saying? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The disciple is surprised, but he doesn't say anything. As he's returning back, he sees a girl selling things, right? Actually, she is collecting and making things from a cow dung, right? The cakes and other things.
Right.
So she's selling those, and as she's selling, what is she saying?
Hare
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The disciple doesn't say anything, but he just notes it, and returning back again, the rickshaw driver is singing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So he goes to his spiritual master, delivers the clothes, that have been washed and ironed, and he says, "My dear spiritual master, even a girl selling cow dung cakes, even the washerman or the rickshaw guy, they all know this mantra. What's the special thing about this mantra that you gave me?" His spiritual master smiles. Then he takes out a very precious jewel. He says, "You know this jewel, but don't tell anyone. You just take this jewel to all these three personalities you're talking about and ask them how would they use it and when they get it." So he says, "Okay, understanding the message as is." It's a very important thing, the message as is. He goes to the girl who was selling this cow dung cakes and he says, "What can you use this rock for? This." So she looks at it and says, "Maybe I can use it to swipe the cow dung, That way I don't have to make my hands dirty." He's surprised to hear the response. He talks to the rickshaw guy. "What would you use this for?" He says, "Oh, actually one of my paddle is broken, so maybe I can use it to attach to the paddle so I can paddle better." He's surprised to hear the response. And then he goes to the washerman and he says, "What would you like to use this for?" Showing him the jewel. And the washerman says, "Sometimes there is a lot of sweat on the collars and other things. Maybe I can use it to rub, to clean away the dirt." And he's surprised to hear these responses. He goes to his spiritual master and reveals. Then the spiritual master smiles. So he says, "See, you understand it now, how important the mantra is, just like this jewel. But if people do not know the importance of that mantra, that it is a prayer that we are calling out to our mother Radha, right? Hara means Radharani. So Hare is lovingly calling our mother Radharani. That please engage me in your service and service of Lord Krishna." So that prayer has to be very attentively, in that prayerful mode, in a humble mode with tolerance, right? We should be calling it out without expecting any respect, but ready to give all respects. And the most respect we should give it to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Mother Radha Krishna. Hare Krishna. So that's the moral of the story. So when we chant, we should be very attentive and calling it out to the Lordships that please engage us in your service.
So
Hare
that
Krishna.
should be the mood. That's how we cultivate the mood of absorption. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained in one of the verses of Shikshashtakam, the mood of humility, which we keep reminding everyone again and again. What is that verse? Tranadapi sunichena tarurapi saheshuna amanena manadena kirtanya sadahari. Humble like a blade of grass. Be humble like a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. Okay? So, let's try to be attentive as much possible. Mind will go away. Let's bring it back. Let's first chant Panch Tattva mantra and then we'll start Hare Krishna chanting. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare
Sit properly.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Rama Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Dasi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we all chanted together. I hope for those of us who participated in chanting with us, you're experiencing somewhat difference to whatever you were doing before. You may be feeling little peace in your heart. You may have calmed down a little bit, or you may be experiencing to chant more. You're welcome to chant more whichever time zone you are in. And Srila Prabhupada has explained, referred to this many times, and Srila Narottam Das Thakur has a beautiful song in which he says, Golokera Prem Dhan Hari Nam Sankirtan. This transcendental sound vibration of Hare Krishna Mahamantra is not from this world. It is from spiritual world. So we should never underestimate or overestimate the superpower of the holy name. So with this now, let's come back to some more Harinam, and then it will be time for us to drop a comment. I will certainly check out any comments or questions you have. Please write down one thing you liked about the talk today, something which you find will really help you in chanting. Okay? Let's sing together.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Rama Rama Kṛṣṇa, dear devotees.
And I want to appreciate all the devotees, all our friends who watched this program with us. I can see last few names, but my gratitude is with all of you. I sincerely appreciate your time. You could be easily doing something else, but you took out the time to listen about the Lord and the holy names. Ranjan Ghosh, Mansingh Yogi, Kanta Sen, Madhabai Banerjee. These are some of the names I can see scrolling on my screen. Deepthi Prajapati, Mani Kumar, Aven Elapan, Yuvraj Singh. Thank you all so much. We will be back again with more useful information which can help us improve our chanting and sincerely take shelter of the holy names. Hare Krishna.
Hare Kṛṣṇa.